You're listening to the Entrepreneur's Agony Aunt podcast, keeping it real, telling the story like it is, because there are no mistakes that somebody else hasn't already made. Hello, I'm Vicky Brock, and you're listening to the Entrepreneur Agony Aunt podcast. Each week, I'm joined by an esteemed guest as we explore one listener's burning startup question. You can submit your problem at vickybrock.com/podcast. This week's question has been submitted by Jane, who writes, I'm an entrepreneur with a very low income. Which ways do you think would be the most effective in boosting the visibility of my startup? So what better guest to join me to talk sales, visibility and general audacious startup hustle than Callie Russell, founder and CEO of Mallzee. Welcome, Callie.
Hi Becky, how you doing?
And now there's some people who may know us both personally who may think they've just stumbled into a parallel universe, because I think there's a slight urban legend around our inability to stand the sight of each other. But you know what? While I do sometimes think you cross the line from bold to bullshit in a way that I am just constitutionally not capable of, I genuinely do have a huge admiration and more than a little bit of jealousy about your approach. So if we could start off by you telling a little bit about your Mozzies story and how you've taken that from a low-income startup like Jane's to kind of where you are now.
Well, I don't think anyone's ever described me as crossing the line from bullshit to what was the line there? It's my
It was kind of bold to bullshit.
Bold to bullshit. That's charming, Vicky. You know, I'm giving up an hour of my week to come to this, and that's how we've started this conversation. Great. To kind of give background, Mallzee is the UK's biggest multi-retailer shopping app. We started with a simple idea of wanting to make kind of shopping easier for people, and we've kind of evolved around to, on one side of our business, have something that does genuinely make shopping easier for people, and work with some of the biggest retailers around. A lot of people kind of describe it as Tinder for shopping. We just like to think of it as, just a really easy way to shop. And then on the other side, having an offering going back to retailers saying, actually, the biggest problem in your business is not how do I sell more stuff, it's how do I sell more stuff profitably. And that to us is then saying, make sure you have the right stuff to start with, because you end up discounting so much stuff around that. So we have a B2B offering that we call Mozzie Insights, which focuses on letting them actually test stuff before they actually make it, which takes away a lot of cost from their businesses.
And was that kind of deliberate plan on your part to kind of do the B2C consumer traction first and then shift down the line?
So we always thought of this as a kind of a 5-stage business, and I would say we're on stage number 3, which is basically the idea. So you've got to build a great consumer product, you've got to get that consumer product to scale, and we now generate 20 million customer opinions every single month, so I think we've achieved that box. And then you get to do the fun B2B bits, which is where you actually get to make revenue and kind of build revenue lines and spend the day looking at sales pipelines and going through all these sorts of, in theory, I hope, and in reality now as well, which is nice. And then kind of after that is you then thinking about how do you scale into other places and do other things around that. But yeah, it was always the plan. Has it taken longer? Yes, because as you know yourself, everything always takes a little bit longer than you thought it would. Even when you get a little bit more long in the tooth, that we are now done this for a long time and actually say, do you know what, we've got like this little bit more breathing space in something, it will always take that little bit longer.
I always used to start off with, I was like, I factored that in. I've doubled it. Like, I'm a type A personality. It won't take me that long. It just takes longer because, especially when you're doing anything and if you're doing B2B sales, like, you don't have all the control. You are in someone else's world in the sense of, like, they have to say yes to buying from you, and you're one of 3 things on their desk that day. So they're going to be moving you about, and then it's all about how do you get yourself up that chart, like, what is it you can share, what is it you can put in front of them, how can you target them, all of these different things around that. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're from a PR background originally, and is that something that you kind of have consciously leveraged along the way?
I think the thing around this is that you come into any startup with a skill set. So yours is a data skill set, so you're very good at that part of it, okay? Like, I don't have that. Like, I have a rough understanding, I can do some things, but you know what, it's not going to be nearly the same world. If I go back and look at my life, though, is say, right, from the age of 16, 17, I've been selling things. So whether it was working in a mobile phone shop, whether it was like a car boot sale, whether it going all the way back and looking like young enterprise at the age of 16 and being the sales director for our company, Kill Placemats and Coasters, and we turned like a $5,000 profit as a bunch of like 15, 16-year-olds. It's like understanding that and communicating that back out. Where after I finished uni, I kind of came out in that joyful 2009 when we had all these problems with our economy.
No jobs, no economy.
Exactly. It wasn't the greatest time for graduates to come out, to be honest with you. Thanks guys. But basically what we kind of came out to was that there's very few graduate jobs. I was lucky that I managed to get a job with a really well-known public affairs company that did a good chunk of PR as well. And I spent 6 months there learning and understanding before deciding that actually, whilst being young, you don't really have a lot of responsibilities. I wasn't used to having lots of money. I didn't have lots of outgoings. I didn't have dependents. So actually I could jack it in and go start something. And if I spent the next 3-4 years of my life failing to start companies, then I would still be in a much better place, and I'd probably have ridden out a recession and then could say, right, actually, this person's going to be in your graduate program for the last 3 or 4 years. That's great. But I've actually gone and ran a business, employed people, made sales, did all these things. And I was like, well, I will just be as well suited at that stage than I would do then. So sadly, I've just never gone back.
I don't know. I think it becomes impossible to go back.
I don't know.
I've had various people tell me recently I'm completely
unemployable. Yeah. Lots of people tell me that I'm unemployable. But yeah, no, lots of people tell me I can't do lots of things, and it's just a bit of a red rag to the bill. But yeah, no, I think the PR part of things is we have like a head of comms, Mel, and stuff now as well. But it's something that we do really focus on and we really invest in, because actually you can get like a huge amount from it if you've positioned it well. You're telling a story. But the thing around this, and it's all about the lines that you take. And actually what we said at a very early point is that you can't just have a single stream PR strategy, because in a startup you're selling to multiple different things all at different times, so you need to think about different ways around that. So from the very early days, we kind of said, right, that's our B2B trade press, that is our B2C consumer press, that is our business to investor press, and that is our business to staff press, because those are your kind of key stakeholders at the starting point, and you need to tell a message to each group that makes you an attractive place to either work with, to invest in, or to kind of work in at any one point in time. And I think that was really beneficial for us to kind of go and do. And we took steps along the way where we actively said, we're going to go do this specifically for PR because we think that the value of that is going to be worth this for us on the other side of it. And the thing for us as a B2C business is you can see the tangible impacts of PR sometimes. So if I go back and say, right, back really at the start, we'd gone B2C, we'd done the Tinder for shopping service piece, and we did like one feature where you could share products between people, and if your friends said no, then we blocked the buy buying, which is counterintuitive as an e-commerce business to stop people buying stuff. Okay, but we did that and we had it live for about 3 months. We promoted that when we first promoted that out to press, got a huge uptake, like it was everywhere. I think it was worth probably about 18,000 consumers to us in a 2.5 week period. And you're kind of like, in reality, we've done something, this is what it's come out for. That's totally worthwhile doing because it's a fun, different sort of feature at the point in time. And then we killed it because it wasn't what we wanted to do.
But it served its purpose.
There was lots of coverage. Gets you onto that next page.
I kind of, that combination of the PR to drive sales, that's driving visibility, that's driving the story. I think that when you've got nothing to work with cash wise, you have to utilize that. I mean, I'm not a natural salesperson. I kind of grew into being one, not least when rather
I don't think
like
anyone would call you a natural salesperson, Becky. Let's be honest.
Ironically though, I did become a sales director at one point. I would much rather talk with a graph and numbers and an elegant equation.
Jazz hands.
But actually, what? I loved it. I loved it when I was out there telling the story of something I really believed in.
It's the founder sale,
actually the mechanics of that, the admin of it. Please, let me leave the room now. I've kicked down doors. I've been enthusiastic. You want me to actually kind of follow this up with a proposal and everything?
That's the harder bit. Yeah, but it's the age-old thing that like. Someone talked me through it. It's like the founder sale is probably the most powerful sale at the starting point because people want to buy into that. Especially people who you know, in reality, if you're running your own business, lots of people want to do it, and lots of people that you're selling to probably want to do it, or the lots of people that you're selling to, if it's at the right level, have probably done it already. So they're kind of buying into your story to that same sort of extent. So making that story like a really great story, and, you know, get people excited about it, I think is super, super interesting at the same sort of time.
And I think it's really interesting you talk about internal PR as well as part of that, because having everybody being able to tell that same story, I think is kind of critical as you come through and scale. Do you kind of see the free, scrappy kind of thing as the way to go indefinitely as a young company, or
how
is
do you
part
mean by free, scrappy?
Well, you know, when you're kind of like, you know, you're doing it yourselves, you're jumping on every kind of PR social opportunity you can get, you're managing it all in-house as opposed to bringing in the adult supervision as soon as you can afford it.
So I think it's a really kind of great mix right in this, because we've done it both ways. So, but we've done it totally differently. So when we first started, you know, I got a PR background, but first time we did something, we hired like a PR fashion agency, and they like got us nothing, and they were meant to be the adults, okay, right? And we spent like a decent chunk of our budget. They brought us nothing, and then I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to do it myself for a week. Did it myself for the week, got loads of coverage, and they didn't even pick up on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I had to go to them and say, hey, did you see all this? And they're like, did you see what? And they're like, I've been in all these things, and they're like. And I was like, yeah, we're not going to be paying you this month, really. Let's be honest. This is a dead relationship now for where this sits. And it becomes kind of different. And then we did it like totally ourselves for a while. And then we brought in a freelancer, Mel, who is like still with us and is like part of the family, is head of comms, is here a couple of days a week, and is just doing like all these different things. You know what, is teaching us lots of things about how we communicate internally, how we talk about things, how we use wording, and it's like, you know what, like checking all of our content that's going up, is writing content. You know, we have partnerships with like, you know, we had partnerships for quite a long time last year with like the Daily Records. We had like a weekly column, which is B2C, which she ran. We've got one with like a big fashion blog where they take like our content every single week about what the top products are, which is great positioning for us on a B2B perspective. So I think at the start, if I was like super early stage and there's like 5 people, I would just do it myself, like, because you've not got the money, like, and you can go out and tell a nice story and around it. There's loads of tools now that will help you like send stuff to journalists, but actually PR, it's personal relations. Like, to me, it's not it's like personal relations. It's you build your relationships with certain journalists, certain people, you give them stories, you help them, and it's a two-way thing. So I know there's probably like 10 journalists at different publications or different places that I've got on Twitter that I can DM something to, or they'll DM me something. So like this week I've had like 2 comment pieces from Fashion Press, and it's kind of like the only reason that you're getting that is because they know you. They're like, hey Callie, give us a good comment, and you know what, we'll turn something around. Like if I ask for like, hey, can you do me like 200 words on such and such a topic, you'll do it pretty quickly, and that's great for us because it's then visibility at the same sort of stage. But you've got to build those relationships. You've got to get on with people. You know what I mean, like that as well. And it's like you've got to enjoy that and everything that goes with it. Like,
you're looking at me as though you think that I don't enjoy it.
I've got.
I'm an introvert.
It's not that at all. It's like I'm just thinking about some of the things around that. Is because you've just. You know, it's something we often talk about, is like you're just building this nice relationship, and it's great, and it's a two-way thing though, because they'll sometimes come to you, or like, you know what, you'll know of like a really good story that one of your friends is doing, and you'll just be like, well, I can just introduce you to like, and they appreciate that because it's content. Mm-hmm. Like media people are looking for content, and there's less of them around than there used to be, so their time is more constrained. Yeah. So if you can create beautiful content and make that really simple for them, it becomes super, super simple. And I probably lost count of the times where like someone will say to like another startup will say to me, hey, who should we get to do our PR and stuff? And you're like, well, you guys are probably not at the stage where you need that. So instead, like, make a release, and like I'll happily send it to like 3-4 people that I just know, and it's good for them. It's good. It's also good for me because it's like, well, you know, Callie's like being helpful to both sides, and I enjoy that. Yeah.
And you know, I think that when it has worked extremely well for me, it has been for the same reason. You know, it helps that I live near BBC Glasgow studio, and that like, I answer the phone at like 4:30 in the morning, and we'll show up. But you know, when you're helpful and you kind of show up and do something like that, it kind of goes both ways.
It's all about that, building that through. And I think for any company at the starting phase around that is you have to have a great product, okay? But if you make a great product, then that's all well and good. But if no one ever knows about it, you're not going to sell it, okay? If you have an average product, but you have an amazing story, loads of people will buy it. So it's about getting those two balances right. And like, it's about walking that line. And for us, sometimes, our story sometimes maybe like a month in front of what the thing is. But now, like, our product's much further in front of what our chat is. Like, some of the stuff that we're doing with companies just now, I'm like, oh my God, we just did this amazing project and we helped turn around this really interesting company and add proper percentage points to their margin. And you're kind of like, but we can't talk about it because it's all under NDA.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you're kind of like,
I mean, I am a big
balancing
believer,
act,
even more than I was at the beginning. I'm a big believer in that whole kind of test first and build second.
Yeah.
And I think social exposure, floating stuff with your customers, floating stuff into the press and see people get excited is a really good way of testing whether anybody gives a damn before you try something.
But this is the whole thing. So a lot of people, when they start I think we've had this thing over the last kind of 3, 4, 5 years, for definitely as long as you and me have been about, Vicky, and we're now old. Like, we're old hands at this stuff now. Let's be honest. Right?
Now I feel really old at the young person just that I
feel old these days. Like, I mean, young whippersnappers. I'm like, you guys are so young. Like, I'm nearly 30. How dare you be doing cool stuff? But what I think is really interesting is it's became like hot and cool and sexy to be like a startup and like have your own company and all those things, and that's great and it's a really positive thing. But then it becomes so much more difficult because there's only this amount of content. There's only this, and what I like to think about it is there's only this amount of oxygen, and there's now more people taking up oxygen, which then makes it more difficult for you to kind of grow and you to kind of do all these things. So as a starting point is actually saying, if we go back to our original question, how do you make an amazing story? Because if you make an amazing story, if you really think, what is your backstory? Why is this interesting? The fact that you have a business or the fact that you have launched a product is just not interesting. It's not engaging. It's nothing like that at all. You have to really realise what, put yourself in the reader of a magazine shoes or the reader of a newspaper shoes. What do you want to read about it? Hey, Vicky has a business. It's kind of boring.
Great.
Do you know what I mean, like that?
So
Vicky has this business. These are interesting things about Vicky. That's much more engaging. So you have to tell that same sort of thing as well. So you have to build out that story and understand that storytelling is important. It's not the most important. I think too many people get stuck in that it's the most important. You've got to get the balance right. You've got to do both things at the same time. But if you get the story right, then it's a much easier sell.
And I think that extends through into all aspects of it. I mean, that extends through into product development. That kind of extends through into your enterprise sales process, because if you've got the story about the problem that you solve and that compelling reason why, not like why you, why now, why this, then you're approaching an investor, you're approaching a sales person, you're approaching a client, all with this very, very strong thing. And I think that perhaps the realistic aspect of this is when you start, nearly always your message changes, your product changes, your service, you're going through all of this process and you become a very different thing. I mean, I remember with you guys, what you originally started out and what you became is completely different thing.
It's built, it's evolved, we've learnt more things. Because the whole thing is around a startup is you're on a learning experience. So you will learn new things along that. People that stay wedded to the same story, you're going to miss out on all these different things as you build it through. Because you're discovering new things, you're learning new things, and you're kind of, you're developing and understanding more and more things. And I think, I think the companies that are the most interesting companies are the ones that learn that, understand that, are totally fine with change because it's continuously changing. And then on the other side of it as well is that they just embrace it and they're just like, this is what we're going to kind of keep moving and just keep moving. And then it's just about making sure that you're around for long enough that you've hit it.
And I think that is a really important point, because I think the danger when you take the route of bringing in the adult supervision, and I definitely made that mistake, less around the PR side. I mean, I had a great freelance person that worked with me and she wrote me better than I wrote myself. I've spent the last few months catching up with writing my own words as well as somebody else used to write them for me, which has been like great fun.
What have I been saying about myself?
Which has been great fun. But when I brought in the FD and the board and all of this kind of thing, I had this layer of people. And I don't think they embraced change and speed and pivoting and flexibility as the positive thing that I saw it as. I think they saw it as terrifying. Vicky is going off in another kind of like random direction because she's got bored of the last one. There's a fractional half-truth perhaps in that. But, again, I do think you have to dismiss what doesn't work quite quickly listen and adapt. How's that worked for you?
For us, it's great. We've got a really supportive group of people around us who are kind of very much like, supporting us, directing us the right sort of way. We'll sometimes say like that's maybe not the path you want to go down, or sometimes say like, you guys are still figuring out some things. That's totally fine. Like, figure them out. Like, we back you as people to kind of do that. And that's, I love our support network, our group of people around us. And you know what? It's very much still, we're here to support, we're here to guide, we're here to kind of encourage you guys, because we really believe in you guys have a vision, you have a thing that you found this huge potential opportunity space that no one else is really attacking, no one else is making great inroads around, and there's a lot of value in it. Like, if we're really being honest and saying, right, okay, our B2B bit is that we think that the level of discounting in fashion retail is too high, and people should make less products and make more money from what they sell. And it's kind of like, right, that's a huge space. We just come off Black Friday, Cyber Weekend. We've just put out our stats on it, and like 38, I think the average discount is like 38%. And you're kind of like, right, imagine if you just didn't make 10% of the worst stuff. Imagine if you just didn't do that.
I mean, I'm working with people who've got warehouses full of stock that's 2, 3, 4 years old, and that like costs them money just to store it.
Just take away like the bottom 10%. Take away the bottom 10%, whatever it looks like. And like, everyone's kind of saying, like, that's a huge thing. Like, you guys are going to misstep, you're going to try this, you're going to do this as well. And I think that's super, super powerful. We don't have, an FD, as a senior management team, there's 3 of us, myself, there's Callum who does all the operations and the finance part, and there's Jamie who does the tech and product side of it as well. We now have like an in-house accountant, but she's our age, she's like 30, to know what I mean, like that.
I think 3 is the perfect. That team size of 3 is what I'll found.
I will never say nice things about them on a podcast.
I will edit out any compliments. Don't worry.
No, but it works.
We can add in some insults.
It works nicely. It works nicely because at the end of the day, you split it up, and then also because it's a 3, we have a at the top end we had a 5-person board, but then there's 3 of us saying this is what we think, this is why, this is our reasoning, and everything around that. And I think around all of these things in any startup at the start is you have an opinion, you have a thought, but then you're looking for data to back up the opinion, back up the position, and this is what we're going to go to.
It's a theory in quest of a business model, and you keep kind of going through that until you've nailed it.
You tweak it, you play about with it, and you find interesting things around the space. And it's, I think the whole thing around it is we were talking a little bit before we started recording this, about psychology, where a lot of this game is psychology. Like, it is, how can you be strong enough and mentally willed enough to take the hit, then to keep going, to change course, do all these same sorts of things, and not allow that to eventually just grind you down to a place that you can't continue. You've got to have that as a central part, and understand your own psychology, and understand when you need to say, need to opt out for like a week or 2 weeks or something like that as well, because I need to go refresh and everything like that as well. And when you actually just say, do you know what, there's 6 months of total nose to the grind, just have to get this stuff done and come out the other side.
I think you kind of go through phases of input or kind of input, processing, and then execution. Not the camera process person, but or a data person. But I kind of look, I suppose, because I don't have the same love of sales, although I think it's really important for a founder to do it. I kind of like, I need to do that in spurts. I can't do it. I don't have the energy to be able to do it non-stop, because it's actually quite draining for me. So I'll kind of have my sales input period, then my processing of what does this really mean, and then what do we do next?
Well, I think at the start as well is that until you have a scalable model and you fully understand your own sales cycle and how long it takes and the levers that you need to pull, all of these things, like, you have to kind of do it yourself to an extent. You can have people help and people support, but you need to be in it. Do you know what I mean? Like that as well, or one of you needs to be in it. Do you know what I mean? And saying, right, we're figuring this out. I'm understanding that, do you know what, if I can get someone to the point of trial, then it's a 40% closure rate at that same sort of stage. And this is so, like, you then look at it and say, right, this is what I want revenue to look like for the next 12 months. So actually, this is how many people I need to speak to be able to get to revenue to that same sort of stage. And then you can start to do all those different interesting bits.
You can't do that in abstract. You only get to that point when you've had enough conversations, enough things that have worked and haven't worked.
Actually, when I look at it more, if we're thinking about, I'm just talking about Scotland, and no, this is for the internet, so the internet is everywhere.
But we have listeners from all sorts of places.
Everywhere, but in reality, the Scottish thing is actually we all talk here about a tech crisis, a tech shortage. We've not got enough tech people, we've not got enough developers. Actually, we don't have nearly enough salespeople who know how to do it, who understand how to do it, who have done it, and who want to come and do startup. Because the ones that we do have are in a relatively nice environment, because we have a shortage of those sort of people. So it's a very different challenge to find a salesperson than it is to find a developer. You can test most things in a developer. You can't really test a salesperson.
I got some really good advice, which was about hiring two at a time.
Hire one will work, one will. I agree with it.
If you hire one salesperson and it doesn't work out, you've no idea if it's you, the product, them, your training methods, anything. Two at a time was some very good practical advice I got around that.
Did you take it?
Yeah, as much as I could afford to, although I overspent on wonderful individuals who brought level of seniority that I didn't have, but probably didn't have enough to work with. If that makes sense. So, because I'm old and bitter and I really can't sort of stand the idea that you are as perfect as everybody says you are. Is there anything you have really screwed up
all the time,
and you would urge people to learn from?
All the time.
Tell me something.
So, firstly, there is no way. Me and Vicky recently spoke on a panel, and everyone was really nice to me, and I found it painfully awkward.
Oh, so did I.
Disgusting. And
I wanted to kick them. Stop being so nice to Callie. I'm on this panel too.
It was really awkwardly weird. But I've got the Scottish thing about me, is that if people are being nice to me, I genuinely worry that they've done something to me and they just haven't told me yet. I'm like, why are you being so nice to me?
I just thought you drugged them all.
I know, it was weird. It was very strange. But yeah, no, lots of things. We haven't done things quick enough. Sometimes we've gone down the wrong path. We built the wrong product for 6 months. Do you know what I mean? Like that as well. And it's just because you're taking advice sometimes from the wrong people, or you listen to the wrong customer, or you're doing things in the wrong way. And actually, you need to pull yourself away from it. Think about stuff a little bit more, and then kind of keep going. I also I'm horrible at just wanting to go and dive into things, and then I kind of forget that I probably should share the things that I'm doing with people. Do you know what I mean? That I'm selling this to this person. Do you know what I mean? And
we just sold this thing, guys. You need to build it.
I've kind of gone a little bit off book, to be honest with you. But I wanted to get it done, or we said pricing is this, and I've changed pricing to make it this because that's what it took me to get the deal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then it's right, actually we need to go back and look at that and kind of explore that and stuff like that as well. Or I've signed, we did an agreement with a really big US retailer, and just took it was a small deal, but it was a good deal. And it was we just took some of their terms and conditions, and then when we went back through them, we should probably not have signed this. Yeah. But it's okay. You're they're not going to enforce it, so you're fine. But you're just kind of there's lots of things. But I think the thing around that is, we've recently introduced the OKR system, and I love it. I love the whole thing around it. Objective, key results. You're meant to try to get to, I think it's 60 or 70%. So you set them hard, and I like setting a big target and working my ass off towards it. But you're expected not to make it all the way there.
Yeah.
And actually now that's giving so much more focus. I really wish we'd done that 2 years ago. I think we'd be 18 months ahead of where we are if we'd done it 2 years ago.
That's really interesting.
Actually going and being really brutal. And I think to anyone early stage now, when people come and ask for advice or come talk, I'm right, genuinely serious. So I used to do it at the start. I used to do it with how long can I survive for? So it used to be I have to have got to this point. So you remember when we did first round, so we did we were with the dinner that we did. That means nothing to anyone. It's just
no, we kind of have evolved in the same time sequence. So we've tended to do rounds, etc.
So but that, and I was I need to raise money by this point, and that was kind of my objective. The key result is money needs to be in the bank, because then I have no more money. Literally, I am skint. My overdraft is gone. My credit cards are gone. I need cash.
Yep, so and that is the reality.
It's great to have those things, but then once you get to a certain stage, what we start to happen is that we're saying, well, we've actually now got 2 years cash. So you've just kind of stopped doing that. You stop having this really short thing. So
I never got to that point. I never did, and I was always raising money. I was always chasing the money more than I was chasing the sale, and they actually lead you in two opposing directions very quickly.
It's I've done a period when I've had to do sales and investment probably for the same time for 6 months, and it's very draining. You know what I mean? Like, someone once told me, like, when you're raising investment will make you feel as good about yourself as you can ever feel, but also as bad about yourself as you can ever feel at exactly the same time, probably within the same hour. Because someone will tell you.
Try getting resigned. That makes you feel quite good too.
Someone will tell you that you're amazing, and someone will tell you you're awful.
Yep.
Within a very short space of time, and like you
sometimes
can't take,
in the same meeting.
You cannot take that too much to heart for where that sits and kind of everything around that. So actually saying, right, this is what we're going to achieve in a quarter or like a 2 week sprint, anything like that becomes super, super powerful. And that's something that we've put in place that, you know, I really loved putting in place. And everybody now, like, you know, I've recently been like, you know, I probably kind of meet 2 people a month and say, they come and ask for advice and be like, right, where are you going to get to in 3 months from now? And it's kind of like, you know, you're either going to get to this point. There's one, you know, really great company, and they were like, right, we're either going to get to like 100 subscribers for our service, or we're going to be at a point where we're raising investment. It's going to be one of the two.
Yeah.
And sort of thing like that as well. And I spoke to them yesterday, and they're at 70 with like 6 weeks to go. Yeah. And you're kind of like, this is amazing. You're going to smash
doing
this.
that way round. You know, getting the sale traction, hitting that target, then raising money is the wisest thing you can do. Super
powerful, yeah, super powerful for where that sits, for where they understand that. But yeah, it's just that, you know, how do they position it, how do they make it through and stuff like that as well. And it's, you know, if we take the initial question, really look at everything you're doing. Like, it's there's the idea of making a list of the 20 most important things you've got to do, and then focusing on 3 of them. For like 3 months, just focus on 3 of them. Be like, how do I do this? How do I get this to this point? How do I close X, Y, and Z? And just like nail them, keep going at them. How do you build that through? Yeah. And, you know, that then becomes a really powerful thing to do.
Brilliant. Thank you so much,
Pleasure.
Callie. So you've been listening to Callie Russell and Vicky Brock, Entrepreneur Agony Aunts. You can submit your question at vickybrock.com/podcast.